You're listening to the Rocking Motherhood Show on Little Rockers Radio. Thanks for joining us. Now, something that has come up in a few conversations I've had recently is the question around emotional abuse, and it's such a grey area that I wanted to explore it a little bit further. So today I'm talking to Marg Ryan from Real Relationships. Marg has a host of qualifications, a Diploma of Education, a Masters of Organisational Psychology, and has also earned a clinical diploma in somatic psychotherapy. Hi Marg, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sarah.
That's good. Now, I really just wanted to, start off this interview by asking you the basic question, and that is, what is emotional abuse?
You're right when you say it's a grey area. And look, really, it is quite a tricky one because committed relationships are the hardest job in the world. So I just want to start by clarifying that, we all have difficulties in relationships, and it's not easy to be with someone for a long time and negotiate taking out the rubbish, keeping the bedroom window open. These basic things can be quite difficult. So we're not talking about that when we're talking about emotional abuse. What we are talking about is behaviour or language in a relationship that really is designed instead to degrade or humiliate someone, sort of really by attacking their sense of who they really are at their core, their personality.
And one of the things that I was actually really mindful of in doing this interview was that I didn't want to make it, a partner bashing exercise, having a go at your partner for not doing the dishes or not taking the bins out or whatever it may be, because it is so much deeper than that. How do we know if we are in an emotionally abusive relationship?
Okay, that's a great question. I think really, to elaborate a bit more, the person that is feeling abused will be walking on eggshells. They won't feel safe. They might feel anxious, fatigued, depressed. I've seen it many times in my consulting room. The person will feel really separated from their own life, like they don't know who they are anymore. And the sorts of things that they'll be describing to me that are happening at home is that there's lots of yelling, blaming, name-calling. And, they might be saying stuff like they feel really isolated or intimidated. And one of the key words that always rings alarm bells for me is when a couple, one person in the couple or an individual person sitting in front of me says, it feels like cruelty, that they're being cruel to me. It really is much deeper, as you say, than your normal fight and argument. And that's why it's become such a problem in a relationship.
And going back, to early in a relationship, these things can be going on for a long, long time before people even try to seek any help. But going from the other end, what are some of the early warning signs that people can look out for?
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think if you know them, you can pick up on that, and it's a good time to make an assessment as to whether you want to continue in the relationship. So if you're dating someone and you notice that what they tend to do all the time is blame you or their friends or their parents or anyone else for problems that come up, and they're never able to take responsibility that they might have made a mistake or that they had an issue at work, then being a blamer is a classic early warning sign.
Right.
The other one is someone that's very resentful. They'll tend to be the sort of person that goes on and on about injustice. So they might say, well, it's really not fair that you're going away this weekend, never spending time with me, and they sort of constantly are going on about what the other person is doing wrong in a really resentful, sort of powerless way, but not kind of giving the person any space at all. And another one that's a classic is that the person will be very entitled. So when I'm talking about that, I kind of mean that they actually feel entitled to have a go at the waitress, if the service is really slow, but in a very demeaning way, or at the pub, if their beer's not cold, you'll hear them make a remark, and it's very cruel and overt. And or a woman can do it too. She can say things to a partner like, even early on in the relationship, you're not much of a man at all, or, you're not half the man my father is. Both sexes are very capable of being very entitled about the way they carry on.
And that's important to point out that it can happen from both sexes. And if we are someone that's out there or someone who's listening that does find themselves in this situation, what can they do? Where can they seek help?
Yeah, so finding the escape hatch is really what they need to do, and this is quite complicated because often the people in these situations, their confidence is shattered. And it can be quite addictive being in a relationship where there's romantic love mixed with fear. So the breaking up part, even though you might know that this relationship's not good for you, can be quite hard because of their shattered confidence. So this is where I think going into counselling and using that as a process to help you through that separation is a way that you can garner your confidence and get back your self-esteem and start to understand what you're doing in that relationship and what the best way is for you to exit that relationship. So that's, I think, a key thing, seeking support, whether it be counselling or whether it even be friends and family, but reaching out to other people and saying, look, I'm feeling really powerless. I'm feeling that this situation's got to the point where I feel anxious and frightened and depressed. And seeking help is critical. The other thing I do is if I have couples in front of me, because often I do relationship counselling with couples, once I see one of the partners abuse the other, I stop working on the relationship and I move to focusing on the abuser. So what I notice is that men and women are often quite shocked to realise that they're being emotionally abusive. They don't actually realise how cruel it is, the things that they're saying and doing. And in those situations, what I find is that they often come from families where it's been the norm. For some people in couples therapy, once they realise and they're held to account and they take that responsibility back, they can learn to change within the relationship. But I would just urge anyone in that situation out there to really look for support within their support network, to get some counselling or psychotherapy, because they really need to learn how to put themselves first and how to choose partners that are going to be kind and considerate, where they can work through their differences. It's so important.
The strong message that comes through there is gaining that support and gaining the external support, and in most cases from an expert. Reading an article in a magazine or something is not necessarily going to help.
I think so, because the thing is that often people in that situation are so beaten down by it that friends and family can sympathise with them or say just leave, but it's often so much more complex garnering the confidence and finding an approach where they can do that. So it's a process. So that's where a professional can help someone, one step forward, two steps back, but get to the place where they can use that escape hatch and get themselves into a safe situation and find a relationship that's secure and happy in the future.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Marg. It's a very interesting topic that, as we started off at the very beginning saying, is such a grey area. So if anyone is listening, they can go to your website initially for some more information, which is at www.counsellormelbourne.com. And I also will have the links on our website at littlerockersradio.com.au. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Sarah. It was a pleasure.
That was Marg Ryan from Real Relationships on Little Rockers Radio. Thanks for listening.